Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I am so excited to be with you and these two gentlemen for another episode of the Music Lab podcast. Today, we are featuring Brooklyn's own Peak. Welcome, Jeremy and Johnny. How are you guys?
Hey,
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Music Lab, Music Lab. I got your theme.
Yeah, man, Peak, of course. So, guys, I know you have a show this Friday that you're getting ready for with Uncle Kunkel's 1 Gram Band at the 8x10 in Baltimore. But let's go back to the start, and let's talk about why the name Peak and where did that come from?
This is probably going to be one for me. I was the only one at the beginning. Everybody else the band, formed over time that has become the band. I guess this is like 2016. I've been playing with Turbine for a very long time, over a decade, and was starting this band, and all the things that you had to get in place for the band. I needed a van. That was a big one. I needed an album. Johnny and I had been friends for a long time, but we weren't playing together at that time. And anyway, but yeah, I spent, like, I guess 2017 pretty much the whole year working on Electric Bouquet, which is the first album, and the songs for that. And I guess I got to go back before that, which is like, I knew I had an album to make. I knew I had to get a van, and I even had some gigs, but I didn't have the name. So I was, it was just, the clock was winding down. I've been through like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names. And I think I was just felt like there should be a jam band with that name. That was just like, I was like, you know what, there should be one. So that was it. That was it to me. It's kind of a verb in this type of music. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do that. And that was it. Yeah. So my point was, I probably would still be thinking about what the name would be if I didn't have to like get going and play a show. And like,
so does that mean then, like, when you, yeah, I guess so, being from Brooklyn, so you guys are from Brooklyn, correct? Or born and raised?
Not born and raised, but we've all been here for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. So the scene in Brooklyn, from a live music perspective, from an indie band perspective, is it hard? Is it, talk about that scene.
It's always hard going out and playing bars and playing clubs and trying to get people there and putting all the time and effort it takes to promote a gig. It's but fun. We love the bowl. We love the Brooklyn Bowl. We're always playing.
Yeah, it's always hard. I think that there's one of the benefits to being in Brooklyn is that the scene is thriving. There's places like Brooklyn Bowl. It's New York City. The hard part and questionably stupid part is touring out of New York, constantly dealing with getting in and out of the city. It's like extraordinarily hard, but it's a trade-off like anywhere else. Grass is always greener, I guess, but we do love it. I love it. I know Johnny loves it. And yeah,
we love out to the people,
Well, and I guess if you're gonna be in a city, you might as well be in the biggest city in the world, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
True.
So what I was going to ask you before that I lost my train of thought. So being a band called Peak, are your fans, like, what do you call your fans then?
Well, we don't have the Facebook group set up yet. We've been waiting to do that, but Peakers is pretty much the name that I've heard thrown around. So yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, and hopefully some of your fans might be peaking during the show, right?
As long as the jam is doing the same thing, that would be great. Yeah. So
we're always but drug free.
Correct. Emotionally peaking, correct?
Yeah. In any sense. Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned being in the band Turbine.
Yeah.
Talk about, the dynamic in that band compared to this band and, kind of the differences and maybe even some similarities.
Um, well, that's a really good question, Doug. If for me, uh, you know, that's a hard one. I look at it as times of my life because that was like, a younger version of me,
Sure.
and things came to a natural end, and this is like this second thing, so it's a more experienced version of me. I mean, on some levels it's very similar, writing songs, playing shows, trying to jam, working in a band dynamic with all the highs and lows of that. But there was definitely a lot of friction in that band, which was good and bad. This is there's certainly tensions here as well, but it's a little bit more smooth, I would say, overall. And just in terms of myself, like, like that band was ending as I was like reaching a certain stage in life, and I kind of realized that I hadn't personally reached what I thought I could bring to the table as a songwriter or as a guitar player, and I sort of got more serious and wanted to just start from scratch and sort of, in a way, do things better and do things right. That's not to discount what that band did, because it certainly did things that I couldn't even do again, but this was like a whole new chapter, and the energy has been really pure and positive for this whole experience, from day one. It's just been really a pleasure, and that includes finding these musicians, finding Johnny and Keto and Josh. Is just it's, I've never had a band, four guys be together as long as Peak Turbine had several drummers come and go. There was always somebody coming in or out, but this is we're going on 4 years of the same four guys, and I don't think I've ever had that before. So it definitely has a completely different energy. And working with Johnny, as he was saying, we write together, and that's a totally unlike anybody else ever written with too. So that's its own thing too. So yeah.
How about for you, Johnny? Because I know you've been in other bands.
Yeah, it's a very collaborative experience, and it's wonderful. We get to go out and play these tunes live, which is what it's really all about. It's going out and writing the tunes, and the hard part is recording them, and then the fun part is going out and playing them live and hoping that people are going to see the same thing in the song that we see in them. So
Yeah, trying to recreate what you make in the studio, especially for a jam band. I mean, that's where the magic is. Would you agree?
well, where some of the magic is that we have to. When I was a kid, my jazz piano teacher told you got to practice your licks, you got to like practice your improv, and that's what we do. We practice our jams just as much as we practice doing our songs, and the group has been growing exponentially from doing that. We're just growing and growing and getting better and better, and it's incredible.
Yeah. I forgot the question. Oh, the studio versus the live thing. That's what it was. Yeah.
Trying to recreate that. Yeah. Trying to recreate.
My answer to that is to not try, which is that, like, albums are just different. I mean, everything Johnny said is true. And we put out a lot of our live, we just put out a live album. So there you go. So that's our attempt to catch it. But the studio album, in my mind, is totally different. It's just try to capture the songs in a studio setting. Snapshot. But it can be, the album can be chill, can be like relaxed, and like, it doesn't have to be, have, fireworks going off the whole time for it to to resonate in the same way as a live show does. It's hard. It's hard to do both, but that's in my mind, they're just different things.
But the real thing is the jam bands are supposed to be able to take a song to another level and jam on them. And that's what people come to hear, you jam on the song. But at the same time, we're trying to have real solid songs that could hold up out the jam. And that's what we're about from the get-go, really.
And that's true in the writing process too. Like, and who's to say we're doing it the right way, but that's the way we think about it. Like we just look at the songwriting part. We don't look at, we want to write something for the live show or write something that's going to have something that we can improvise on. It's always an afterthought, and that can be difficult on the improvisational side, but it's like, let's just get the best song we can get and worry about that later.
Good song, you can jam on it. Any good song, you can find a place in that song where you can make a little jam up. It's easy as pie.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So when it comes to songwriting, guys, are you more lyrics first or music first?
Music.
Lyrics. And that's why we're a good team.
So talk about that dynamic. Yeah, that is the preference for both of you.
Well, really, just like, Jeremy will call me up on the phone and go, "Oh, I got this idea, but I'm not sure if this chord progression is right." And maybe try that chord progression in reverse. Oh, that works great. And then he's driving down the road on the way to a vacation. He's writing, "Oh, this truck tried to run me off the road." Why don't you take that progression and add this to it to make it a bridge? Oh, yeah, great. And by the end of the weekend, he calls me back. Oh, I got this song, Run Me Down, so that's how it happens.
But he's the chord and melody master, so he's the composer, and any chord progression question, like he was saying, or melody, like that's all his department. And for me, the more songs I write, for me, the more I just try to sit down and write some lyrics that I like, some tell a story, whatever that is. And and so it is a good team because you need both, you really do. And it's not, we both do the other thing too. It's not black and white by any means, but
yeah.
That's where our natural inclination is. And that's nice,
Yeah, that's on a good day.
Yeah.
So I was talking to you guys before we started recording, like when I listened to Choppy Water, your second album, I get a lot of Steely Dan and I get a lot of Steve Miller Band. And I wanted to know, like, both of those bands, like we said earlier, are so focused on songs. Like, it was all about the songs. It's odd, though, to hear, those dynamics in those bands in your music, so talk about that. How that kind of, is that just influences or?
No, it's simple. If Steve Miller and Steely Dan actually took the time to jam, what would they sound like?
that's one answer. I think it's subconscious because that, there's a lot of other influences you could say are in there, or I've certainly never, I think these influences come out, they just come out when you're working on this stuff. You can't help it.
Right.
So, yeah, and certainly like the harmonic stuff that you hear in Steely Dan and Johnny's keyboard playing, that's probably coming from that direction to some degree. And, but it's all those, they're subconscious. I don't think the influences you can sometimes just say, well, let's add a little bit like, Paul Simon, or, I remember we thought about him when you were asking about Path Paved with Roses, when we were talking to you before. Like, I remember saying, oh, what would Paul Simon do here, or something like that. We think about stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I don't think you can control it that much.
Yeah. So you did mention that Radiohead is one of your influences, or so just because that's my favorite band in the world, what are your both favorite Radiohead albums?
computer one. Okay, computer, is that it?
Yep.
That's one of them. Yeah, that's the big one. I probably go for. I have to go for Kid A just because it was so seminal, just changing, and I heard it right at the right time. Just a personal favorite, but I love God. I think I love them all, and I really love from Kid A on too. Like they're all like all the recent ones, Moon Shaped Pool. I mean, they were all so good. They really are, consistent, and they're one of our influences. It's hard to list the influences because they're just such a big influential band. It's like the Beatles. Like who isn't influenced by the Beatles? And in 2024, who isn't influenced by Radiohead? It's impossible.
Yeah. No,
How about what's your?
I go back and forth. In Rainbows for me is probably number one, but OK Computer, it's just such a classic. So it's like trying to pick between your favorite child.
Oh, you know what else is but they're such good records that they grow. They get like King of Limbs was not my favorite when it came out, and it just keeps getting better. And I'm like, oh my God, King of Limbs, they're great. They're really great. And the Smile, which is basically a Radiohead album, it's great too.
Yeah, it is. That Bending Hectic song is fantastic. Yeah. So let's talk about a particular song, and you mentioned it that we had talked about, the Path Paved with Roses. First of all, who came up with the song title? And then who was really like I know you guys co-write a lot, but on that particular song, I would love to hear the story behind that song.
Well, that's interesting that you picked that. That was the very first song we wrote, and it was the very first day that we said, let's write songs together. So that's what happened. And we started, I think Johnny started with the riff, and we worked on some melodies together, and I came up with the title at some point. And
theme going to be this poor boy, that poor boy meets sort of theme. And let's write a song about that and have it be kind of up and make sure it's danceable. And, we went from there, really. It just started together really fast, like, within a day or.
It took a few days. It took a week. I remember we had the verse. Eventually we got the verse, and then we had the chorus, but it only had like the first line of the chorus. This is an interesting thing I forgot. It's like, maybe some, I forget, but the chorus only had one of the parts. And then the next day I was like, it needs another line. I added the second line of the chorus. And then the third day I was like, God, it needs one more. Like we kept adding one line under the chorus until it became the full chorus that it is now. Like that was interesting.
The long road had the big long melody.
Oh yeah. So it took us a few days, but it was the interesting thing about it was our very first song. And to be totally honest, like we don't get a lot of times. That was one of the only times that we sat down and said, let's get in the same room and write a song from scratch. Pretty much since then, we just don't have time. It's like, oh, I have an idea. We have a couple hours. Let me show you this thing. Or, I have an idea. Can you fill it out? That was one of the only times that we were like, let's start from nil and just sit here in a room until we get something. So we should do it more often. We really should.
You should.
The other one we did too, the Dan. We kind of did that with that too.
So, what I know, like we kind of said before, like trying to pick your favorite child, but like for each of you, what is your favorite song that you guys have put out so far?
Who knows? They're all great.
Oh.
My mother does never have a favorite. I come from a family of 10, and she said, I never play favorites. And that seemed to be a good.
To me, they're like, I agree with that, by the way. He's right. But it rotates like certain times of my life, of the year, of the whatever day it is, like a certain one will be like, you know what? This one is speaking to me right now. And it rotates. I couldn't even say what it is right this second where I know I could actually tell you what it is right now. because while we're recording this for our album, we're recording our song Missionary Ridge, and we're playing it this Friday. And I changed one line in the lyrics. We've had the same lyrics since we wrote it. That's actually a song that the band wrote together. It's one of the only songs that the whole group was in a room. And we've been playing it the same way for like 3 years, but we were working on the album last week, and we're really listening to these songs in a new way. And there was one lyric that I was like, it's not quite right. And I changed it. And it's like, I hadn't touched the song in 3 years. We've been playing it this way, but I think it's better, this one little line. And so I'm really fired up about singing this one line in the show. Right? So, yeah, they come and go, which ones, so yeah.
So how do you guys feel like you approached working on this album compared to the last album?
We had more time because of COVID and stuff to go out and play it, so, and then we came in and learned it.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned COVID, because I mentioned Electric Bouquet too. The first album, what I did, there wasn't really any shows that year, and then COVID, we didn't have any shows, and we worked on Choppy Water. But right now we're pretty busy, and I forgot how hectic it is to try to get an album recorded. There's so many details, so we're really, really trying to get it all done. I don't know. I think we learned a lot from. We have the same guy who's going to mix and master it as Choppy Water. I think we're working a lot more efficiently, and like he said, that record too. We hadn't played a lot of those songs out that much. They kind of came together. But these are this album, and we were talking about singles before. We're going to have some singles, non-album singles from these sessions. We have like 13 tunes. So not everything will be on the album. Some will be used for singles and stuff. And but they're all road tested. These are all road tested tunes, and really, we all really felt like we knew them going into the studio process. So. But yeah. It's mostly upgrades. Johnny got his studio is in Sunset Park, where we're tracking everything, and we have our own organ, and Leslie this time. They have a fantastic new drum set, like the new room, because we moved studios. I should say that at some point they moved, and the new room, my guitar amp it's like made for my Fender Deluxe Reverb, the ceiling and the soundproofing. So my guitar sounds amazing. So we're excited for this.
Very little electronic interference. Not downtown above a bar.
I would say though, like listening to Choppy Water, like there is like the production on it is really, really good. I mean, there is a warmth to that album that you don't get very often, especially with jam bands. Like it's really well done. Like, so I'm glad that you are working with the same producer again.
Make sure the arrangement is correct. That it's all in the arrangement.
It is, but we took care to do all they have a great studio, Johnny and Michelle at his place, great mics. They're very experienced engineers at tracking it, and Johnny produces as we track and stuff. So a lot of experience, and using the real gear. My amp and guitar all from the 60s. Like Johnny's got the piano, like all the organ and stuff, and all the keyboards are analog and vintage on that album. And Jocko is great. He knew that we were going for that, and I think it's going to be even warmer and richer this time, because that's the only time you get to do that. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like when you're making an album, so might as well try to do that.
If you track it right, it's not going to be right. It's got to be put down just right.
The Jocko is the guy's name, Jason Randall in Syracuse, and he's a very talented mixing and mastering engineer. Though he's great. Gotcha.
So you started then the work on this album. Then how long ago, and when do you expect it to be finished? Then
summer, right?
Well, this at best. And we should be able to make this. We release this year in October, if all goes well.
Yeah.
And you start working on it the second the last one is done. You start trying to write songs and specifically sessions for this album. We started a little over a year ago doing like getting the arrangements, like he was saying, together. And I think drums were tracked in the summer, and we tracked in August. We've been tracking throughout the year. We did guitars in December, and it's stages, and now we're on to keyboards, the final legs here, and just did some percussion, and so
keep working at it every day.
So how do you guys, I mean, you've said now multiple times, Jeremy, about how busy you guys are. How do you balance that kind of work-life band, because a lot of most normal people just have work-life balance, but you guys have that added third. So how do you do it?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
Sometimes successful, sometimes we're not.
Yeah.
On the road with me, and Bev comes sometimes to our gigs, and sometimes you got to take a few days off for life and then get back to the music. That's all.
Yeah, he was saying my wife sometimes will go to shows with us, and help out, and I don't know. Yeah, just do the best we can, and everybody likes to have shows, and so as long as we got shows, that everyone's always excited for that. And
when Michelle helps us run sound.
Yeah, Johnny's wife is our sound person and engineer, so we have some family around, which is good. And our bass player just moved closer to us in our neighborhood, which is nice. And band is like, it's a family, there's no other way around it. So we just try to keep it as copacetic as we can, and keep the band together is the most important thing.
So during COVID, I mean, was there any thought to be like, this is it, or did you kind of never think that and just kept plugging away?
Never thought that.
Yeah, COVID was actually a huge opportunity for the band. That's the way I looked at it, for the band and me personally. I practiced things that I've been wanting to practice my whole life, like learning Bach and transcribing solos that I've been putting off for years. And then the band, we had our drummer coming in like multiple times a week to rehearse. Never get that in the regular thing. So obviously it was an awful time in some ways, but from the band standpoint, I think it was one of the things that's making us, be in a better spot now, honestly.
At that time, we lived above 1,000 feet square footage, so we could stand apart from each other and wear masks and practice. And there's a couple old videos of us playing at that old apartment studio.
Yeah.
So how far is that apartment from where you guys are now?
Well, about a mile, right?
Yeah. Not far.
Yeah. That's so cool. So so we kind of touched on singles versus albums a little bit, but like it just from doing this podcast and and interviewing bands, like the landscape of how music is being released now with digital everything, for a jam band, I would think that that's a little bit of a challenge, because you do want to put out albums, and and is it an urge to resist that a little bit?
I think Johnny and I both and still think, and I think most people, musicians that I know, still think of the album as like the as its own art form. It's a unified thing. Nothing's replaced it. And physically, the vinyl being the best representation of that. But we're looking at the single thing as an opportunity. Like I said, we have more than enough songs for an album. So instead of like putting some of them on the shelf, we're just going to, we feel like they're all good enough. So we're going to take the ones that are the most cohesive and make an album. And then the ones that are left over just release as singles. So it's an opportunity to release things in different format. The problem with the album is that it has the same like publicity cycle as a single. You know what I mean? It's still just one day, here's a new album. Okay, next day, here's a single. It's the same amount of publicity for the whole album. But it doesn't matter. I think we just love the the art form, Revolver, Dark Side of the Moon, you name it. Like, it's just, that's always the goal, to make that.
Yeah. How about you, Johnny? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. And once we've done the album, I think fans want to hear every couple of months what else you got. It's a way to stay in touch and with the fans.
Well, and I think it was really smart on your guys' part too, to kind of alternate releasing, studio albums and doing the live albums as well, because especially in the jam scene, like, people want to hear live stuff. Like, that's what it's all about. So, I think that was a well done way to cater to that base, but also still be able to do what you want to do, correct?
Old studio album.
It is, yeah. The live album, you're totally right. That's like, it's more important to have a good live album in the jam band scene. There's no doubt about it. And if all goes well, we'll have released both a live album and a studio album by the end of this year, which will be great. That'll be great if we can pull that off. And Hot Clips 3 is the live album that came out in January, and I hope it's good. I'm a little, as they say, like, too close to it. Like, we worked on it a whole bunch. We went through all the things, put it all together, and it just came out. And, like, I haven't listened to it since then. But there's some, the tracks average like 13 minutes or something. So it's it's a jam band album. It has to be.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, I know there has to be either a strange hobby or something that you guys do outside of music that keeps you entertained. So let's hear
it. Good book.
I didn't hear what he said. What did you say, Johnny?
A good book.
Good book. Well, I was going to say that it may not. This is boring. Actually, it's not as exciting. I was going to say, but Johnny and I are both history buffs. So, like, at 4 a.m. on the drive back from, like, whatever gig, everyone's falling asleep, but we'll be talking like Civil War or French Revolution or whatever. And I think that puts everyone else even more to sleep, but it keeps us up. So, like,
coming up, right?
What's that?
There's a new Napoleon.
Oh yeah, that came out. I saw it actually. It's pretty good.
It's not subtitles, is it?
He has an American accent.
It's subtitled? No. Oh, okay. All right. He had this other
subtitles.
He had some World War II thing. You gotta watch this. It's subtitles. No.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we like World War II stuff.
That's there.
Anyway, that's our that's what we got.
No worries. Are we gamers at all? Are we gamers?
Oh, if our bass player was here, Josh, he is. He's the gamer.
Okay. Michelle loves to do that stuff. She's got.
Oh yeah.
But we don't waste money on it. She never pays money. She just uses it until it's used up, and then nope, I'm not putting any money into it.
That's the way to go. So I want to hear a crazy tour story, because I know both of you guys have been bands for a long time. There's got to be a crazy tour story, either a bad one or a good one. Let's hear it.
When the guy had to use his tractor to out of the place we were staying at that night, Vermont, and it was so much snow on the ground, he had to use his, what was it, a tractor? It was like a tractor, and
we got caught in a blizzard. Yeah, I feel like this is not as like debaucherous or crazy as, there's no cops in the story or anything like that, but like we were like playing in Burlington and higher ground, and it was a blizzard, and we were like down a driveway where we were staying, so we had to get hauled out, and we drove through Whiteout. We had a show in, I think, New Haven the next day. So anyway, we were driving down through the White Mountains in Whiteout, and I was driving, and everyone's yelling at me to like not crash, and I'm like, stop yelling at me, like, but our heat was out in the van. It went out, and we made it to Brattleboro at the bottom of Vermont, and I went and like to this sporting goods store. My feet were like, I could have made it like I had a coat, but my feet were so cold. So we went into Brattleboro, and I bought like, it was like a $45 pair of like thermonuclear socks, which I still have, just like the warmest socks. Like if you're an Arctic explorer, these are the socks you would need. And anyway, it started with the tractor pull and ended with actually ended with a show, but I got the socks along the way.
We made it to the show.
And we made it to the show.
Yeah. Quite a turmoil.
So, do you have a favorite venue that you guys can definitively say that you like to play, or are they all great?
I can't say they're all great.
No, they're all different, and different. We're going to be doing. This is unannounced. We're announcing on Friday, but we're going to be doing Brooklyn Bowl. We always love playing Brooklyn Bowl. I love the 8x10 where we're playing Friday. Great. It used to be called the Funk Box. Been around forever, and it's a great room. So we like a lot of different rooms, but
Next, Infinity Hall.
We just played Infinity Hall in Hartford, and it's a beautiful, beautiful space. That's really nice.
The Nectars, and some great places.
Yeah, I actually went to Higher Ground a long time ago to see. We were up there skiing. I was in college, and just happened to see that they were the Machine was playing, which is a Pink Floyd tribute band. And oh man, it was phenomenal. It was a cool venue.
Yeah.
We played the festival with them last year.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And
they were at Strange Creek when we were there, and that was Johnny's big Pink Floyd guy. That was his first time seeing them, so that was great. Yeah.
What'd you think of them, Johnny? Did they do a good job?
Yes. Very.
Yeah, it's always good to get Johnny's approval. So, so let's talk about, well, we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like the jam scene in general, like, what is your guys' take on it, in 2024? Like, is it healthy? Is it not healthy? Like, where is, do you see any problems? Do you, what's the state of the union if if you had to say?
Johnny's a newcomer to the scene, so I'll let him go first.
Okay.
I think there's definitely a scene, and there's definitely fans that love him. There's not a set sound in the sense of style, but there are a lot of jam fans that like to jam, and given that opportunity, I think a scene has emerged. And the what's really great about it is that the fans dig it, because so many times if a band's not jamming good, the fans get turned off. But in this scene, the fans love it when you jam on every freaking song. And that's a good thing. It encourages improvisation, and it encourages inventiveness. No matter what style the band is jamming in, it's going to encourage new things.
Yeah, I think that's all right, and I think it's healthy as ever. It's I mean, this will date me, but I mean, I remember when it started with like the Horde tour. I was little, but I remember the Horde tour, and I saw the Grateful Dead in 1995, and like everything after that. So I think it's as healthy as ever. And trying to push like the I don't know how I'm going to phrase this, but like the improvisation bands that really take risks when they're jamming, which really comes from jazz, like really having that willingness to go all the way out is what we try to do. And it's really hard to do that, especially in the context of playing a concert with regular songs in a certain amount of time. But that's what, as soon as you start backing away from that, you start just getting into like, solos and composed solos. So like the spirit of as long as bands are pushing and trying to, really improvise and listen to each other and go new places, that it's, that's what we try to do. That's what I love about the scene.
your peak, it's not going to be the same performance last night as tonight. It's just going to be something new.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what it's all about, really, especially in the jam scene. So we have this show this Friday night with Uncle Kunkel's 1 Gram Band at the 8x10 in Baltimore. Tickets are still available, correct?
Yeah.
Tickets still available. There's a opening band, 314, I think they're called, and then we're playing, and then Uncle Coco's playing. We've never played with them before, so we're really looking forward to meeting them and hanging with them, and yeah, gonna be a great night.
So any other shows then, like you said, not for the rest of the month, anything then other than the Brooklyn Bowl show, correct? In the near future?
Well, we're in Syracuse in a few weeks, in April 4th.
Okay.
We're going to announce this in like a matter of 24 hours, but it's Brooklyn Bowl will be May 2nd, and we're actually headlining that with some good bands opening, and then yeah, we're going to be announcing a bunch of summer stuff and some more spring dates as soon as, hopefully, in the next like week or two here. So,
and lots of studio work, recording.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what I've heard so far, I can't wait to see you guys live, and I can't wait to hear the new album. So, congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Doug. Thanks for having us, and we really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see you at a show very soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages, do all that fun stuff. That helps us, that helps the bands like Geek. And yeah, guys, I've been Dogg. You guys have been great. This is the Music Lab podcast.